apparently.
Yeah.
Close enough time.
Well, it's Indian time, man. That's that's how it works on the res. Like
Right?
it's Indian time. You show up 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late, 20 minutes late. You get there when you get there. Everybody else
Mhm.
could just suck it up.
That's just Wisconsin time in general.
Yeah, my grandma grew up out there in Oklahoma, and that's how she was perpetually late, never on time. And she would say, "Oh, I got here when I meant to get here."
Indian time.
But hello. Welcome to another fantastic episode of Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion. Before we get started, let me first remind you that we are covered by the gov't no government license, which allows for the use and reuse of this podcast by anyone and everyone except for governments and the bludgies thereof. You can learn more about that at bipcot.org. That is bipcot.org. We're also covered by Brandenburg v. Ohio, 1969, which ruled that the government cannot punish inflammatory speech unless that speech is, quote, directed to inciting or producing imminent lawless action and is likely to incite or produce such action. Therefore, everything said here on Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable discussion is entirely hypothetical. This is episode 188, and we're going to be talking about the HR 1808 today, the assault weapons ban of 2022 and all that bullshit. Yep. And we will drag through the mud the two Republicans that crossed the line to vote for it.
And on top of that, there's a strong chance Jason's going to have to remind Andrew and I of Brandenburg v. Ohio.
Yeah, over this one. We'll bet.
Because it's a bad bill, bro. I mean, it's like you see most gun control they talk about assault weapons and rifles and all this stuff. This one just says weapons. It just says firearms.
Right.
Yeah, the bill defines a semi-automatic assault weapon as simply having a detachable magazine.
Yeah, which would make it worse than California. Like California, we have the assault weapons ban, right? So you can't have a pistol grip and a removable magazine. You can't have a pistol grip and a vertical grip. You can't have a pistol grip and an adjustable stock, etc., etc., etc.
Banned in California.
You can have a pistol grip and a removable magazine on a pistol, but not on a rifle because of the wording of our assault weapons ban.
But on the pistol, it still has to be 10 rounds.
Yes. Well, 10 rounds in the magazine. You can have a standard capacity magazine.
But you can only
have 10 rounds. And that's not 10 plus 1. That's 9 plus 1. 10 period.
Right.
Yeah. So that's
okay. It is a felony in the state of California to have more than 10 rounds in your firearm. I don't say it in your magazine, in your firearm.
Yeah. So. And that's the thing is like this. So the AWB of 94, right, which expired. We all remember when it expired. We all remember
sunsetted. Yeah.
So because it was only a 10-year, and so we've had now, 18
almost
years
20 years
of these weapons becoming commonly used firearms, and
estimated at 24 million.
Well, and don't forget that during
24 million lawfully purchased and registered.
Yes.
Well, and not even necessarily registered, but
on record.
On record, yeah, with a
4473.
Yeah. But the thing is like the 94 assault weapons ban required 2 characteristics, right? It required 2. This is even worse than that. That was already bullshit, but this is even worse than that because this requires only 1. So as long as it has a detachable mag and either a pistol grip or a forward grip or a folding stock or a grenade launcher, which is ridiculous,
or a
barrel shroud or a threaded fucking barrel.
The barrel shroud gets me every time. Like they're so locked into this word. Like it's tactical or makes it more dangerous. It's a barrel shroud.
There are
Place your hand.
bolt action rifles that have removable magazines and a thing that would be termed a barrel shroud.
Yep.
There's
lever guns. There's lever guns with adjustable stocks and barrel shrouds.
Marlin makes one with a telescoping stock.
It
has multiple pick rails. Yeah,
they have a few of them. They have them in 45-70 and 44 long Colt and
30-30
and
yep. I saw one the other day in 350 or 35 Wayland.
Why?
Yeah, talk about a wildcat, man. No one's
35 Wayland.
Yeah,
not a wildcat.
Nobody shoots that. Like, you're going to be the one guy for 1,000 miles that actually cares about that round. Like, no one else. It's like
it's like
it's not a wildcat.
What is it? 375 Legend or something like that. Like,
or like
350 Legend.
What's the point?
44 auto mag that
God.
literally no one makes. Literally no one makes it. You have to hand load every single round.
Well, that's not that dissimilar from 6.5 284.
Yeah,
there's like two manufacturers that make ammunition, and it's like $100 a box.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I if you can find something from Nosler, fine. Like I get it, but like, back to the bill though. That what makes this bill ridiculous.
There you go. Yeah, 25 auto, Dave. You're right. There's a good one.
Yeah. Is that even if it has a fixed magazine, it can't go over 15 rounds. Or it becomes an assault weapon.
So I have a lever action 22.
22s are exempt.
22s are exempt.
That's right.
If 22s are exempt, if they have a tubular magazine.
Yes.
Like the Golden Boy.
If they, however, are say an M&P 1522, an M&P 1522 has a removable magazine.
Yep.
Therefore, assault weapon can't have it. Nope, that's dangerous because it's scary black plastic. Yeah, it's all black plastic, by the way. If it's an M&P 1522, like nearly all of it is plastic, including the upper receiver. Like, it's all plastic.
The only thing that isn't plastic on that thing is what, the barrel?
Springs.
The barrel, and then it's got a little bolt carrier assembly that has its own rails for the bolt that goes inside the receiver, and it comes out as a unit. So like that's all it's got. Like, that's the metal. Everything else is plastic. The mag is plastic. The upper and lower receivers are plastic. The butt stock is plastic. The actual what would be a buffer tube, for the shoulder stock to go onto, is also plastic. Everything is plastic. The fore end is plastic. This is all plastic except for just the little metal bits. The
barrel shroud.
Yeah, the barrel and the simple blowback bolt. That's it. Everything else is plastic. Actually, isn't the hammer even polymer? I think the hammer might even be polymer with just like a little metal insert on the contact surface. Like, it's ridiculous.
But they are fun to shoot.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're a blast, but they're all plastic, and it's a 22, and they're calling that in this bill. That becomes a dangerous assault weapon. Well, like, Christ, it's ridiculous.
I wouldn't want to introduce them to my CMMG then.
Oh my God. And it codifies the ban on bump stocks and binary triggers.
Did you see the video of Thomas Massey talking to the guy about the bump stock, about the
oh God, yeah,
the bump stock, quote unquote bump stock?
Yeah. Where he tried to claim that the pistol brace fires off
brace,
auto, and Massey going, "Oh, the internet's going to educate you."
FPC dropped a fantastic video of that. Oh,
the glasses falling down onto Massey and
the chain. Yeah.
Like, great. it was so funny because Massey's just like, what? You actually believe that?
Like Massey was laughing, responding to him.
And he's like, you actually believe it? Oh, the internet is going to educate you.
Not that he cares. Not that he cares at all, of course, what we think, of course. But
No, he doesn't.
like, it was just,
Well,
the
don't forget-
optics of it was so bad.
Oh, yeah, fucking Booker. Remember Booker when he tried to run for
Cory
president
Booker.
back in the 2020 election, and the 2016. Didn't he try in 16 too? I think he tried in 16 too.
Mm-hmm.
He was so rabidly anti-gun. Like he was as rabidly anti-gun as Beto.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually somehow manages to know less about how firearms work than Beto. Like Beto is at least
That's impressive,
vaguely
actually.
aware.
Yeah, Sicilian. Yeah. David Sicilian. He's the guy that Massey was talking to.
Yeah, that I've seen other clips of.
He's out of Rhode Island.
Oh,
Yeah,
the most meaningless state in the country.
Yeah, no one fucking cares. All right, everyone only remembers that Rhode Island exists because it's where Quahog allegedly resides. So, like, that's it. It's Family Guy.
The Showtime TV show Brotherhood. That takes place in Providence. The two brothers are from there.
Oh, and it gets referenced in The Departed. They just do not stop having the mafia down in Providence. That's like the only thing no one knows shit about Rhode Island, but no one needs to care. It's tiny. It's a blurb.
You know, the only other thing anybody knows about Rhode Island is the simple fact that it's the smallest state.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, Washington, D.C. is if they have their way.
Well, if they became a state.
By population, no. Rhode Island would still be smaller.
I think Rhode Island has a higher population than Wyoming.
Not by much.
They certainly have a higher population density than Wyoming.
Well, yeah.
I have a smartphone. I can look it up.
If you had 25 people together in a single place,
Rhode Island is 1.058 million. Wyoming has 581,000.
So it's like 10 times the population density of Wyoming.
No, more like 1,000 times the population density of Wyoming.
It has 1.058 population in Rhode Island. 1.062 is the population of Montana.
Yeah, the population rank of Rhode Island is 44th.
Yeah.
Jeez. So, but to get back to 1808, HR 1808, it also mentions, right, the other things it bans: a semi-automatic pistol that has an ammunition feeding device that is not a fixed ammunition feeding device. So anything but like a C96 broom handle Mauser and like a couple of other late 1800s
stripper clip fed
pistols. Yeah. And has any of the following, any one, again, this is one thing. If it's got a removable magazine and has a threaded barrel, a second pistol grip, whatever the fuck that's actually supposed to mean, a barrel shroud.
This also applies to rifles of, using stabilizing brace, right? AR pistols, AK pistols. So they're talking about that second pistol grip being a vertical grip.
Right. A barrel shroud. Again, has anybody ever seen a pistol with a shrouded
on a real pistol?
No. AR pistol.
On a real pistol, no.
Yeah, it's only AR pistols.
The capacity to accept a detachable ammunition feeding device at some location outside of the pistol grip. So all AR pistols are immediately banned.
Yep.
All of them.
Because they're easier to hide. What?
Only the United States gives a shit about that and has ever given a shit about that. Only the United States. Seriously. A semi-automatic version of an automatic firearm.
So
even though
Berettas,
it's never been...
But there's fully auto Berettas. so Berettas are out. There's fully automatic pistol or Glocks.
Glock
So
18
Glocks are out.
is a full auto Glock 17, which means that's gone.
There's full auto 1911s. They exist. So 1911s are out.
Why? Because they would. Yeah, I was gonna say they would jam every.
The only thing left would be like revolvers.
Yeah, the C96 broom handle Mauser is available as a Schnellfeuer, which is a full auto version. That was actually the first one that had a detachable magazine. The regular C96 is stripper clip.
I'm finding a Schnellfeuer is full auto. I want to conceal carry a Lamat.
So you have the shotgun barrel in the middle and
the 2022 barrel revolver.
Well, with everything being banned, maybe that little 25
chamber
auto that Dave was talking about will start coming back in vogue.
Hang on. But it gets better. Not only the semi-automatic version of an automatic fire, which also means that the Scorpion Evo, for instance, even in pistol guys, that's out. The SP5 gone. The KP9 gone. All of those are out. A manufactured weight of 50 ounces or more when unloaded. Deagle gone.
Smith & Wesson 500.
Yeah.
Unless you get the
big iron revolver
snub nose. You get the snub nose 500. I think that's like 46. That's like 46 ounces or something like that.
That's so you too can set everything on fire around you after you fire and make everyone deaf.
They make the rules.
Right? I mean, with under these rules, an Obraz would be perfectly legal.
Technically, yes. Well, yes. No, actually it wouldn't. We're getting there.
Because the receiver would automatically be, or would have previously been barreled as a rifle.
Buffer tube, stabilizing brace, or similar component that protrudes horizontally behind the pistol grip.
Well, an Obraz doesn't have any of that.
Well, an Obraz doesn't really have a pistol grip. It's not really a pistol.
No, it's you shaved off the ass end of the stock, and that's what you're holding on to for dear life, I might add.
Yeah.
I think it had to be manufactured as a pistol for it to.
Yeah, I mean,
if you get an unbarreled action that's imported, and they do exist.
Oh, it might be.
Why would you want? I mean, if you've never seen an Obraz fire, like you pull the trigger on that,
fired an Obraz.
The world ceases to exist for a moment. There is nothing but white. You see the Lord for a moment. You go completely deaf. The fireball that it lets go does more damage than the bullet because it's only accurate to like 12 feet. It tries to break your wrist, and then you have to reach over and work an action. Bolt action. It's God.
It's also a treat.
If we started carrying muskets just loaded with like nail heads, like they would remove this policy.
Just start bringing blunderbusses, man. Start conceal carrying a blunderbuss loaded with flechettes, and just
flechettes. Aren't flechettes a war crime?
Well, I mean, it can't be a war crime if you're having fun.
They're not flechettes. They're nails.
Yeah. See.
Yeah.
There you go. They're just
screws
really small darts
and gravel.
I was gonna say use 177 caliber BBs and flechettes mixed together.
Oh, but wait, this gets even worse. So,
well, wait, there's more.
A semi-automatic shotgun that has the capacity to accept a detachable ammunition feeding device or a fixed ammunition feeding device that has a capacity to accept more than 5 rounds.
So any competition shotgun is out.
Yeah, anything over security barrel.
And has any one of the following: a folding, telescoping, or detachable stock, a pistol grip or bird's head grip, a forward grip, or a grenade launcher, because as we all know, many people are carrying around tactical shotguns with a grenade launcher on it.
Oh my God.
Some
I saw a guy the other day carrying a concealed carry 870 with a 203.
Can you imagine like a fucking shockwave with a 203 on the? It's just like because fuck everything and everyone, including
firing them both at the same time.
I was going to say, my new concealed carry is going to be that single shot 40 Mike.
Bang! Boom! Fuck you. Conceal. You're using the term conceal carry kind of loosely here.
Get one of those. Get one of the. What are the? Is it Spikes that makes the 37 Mike?
Yeah. So Spikes has a 37 millimeter replica of the Thumper.
Yes. Get a Spikes 37 Mike with the flare rounds.
Flare rounds.
Rounds.
Right. Yep.
No, yep. Flare.
You shoot somebody with a flare round, their day is bad. Their day has gone very, very poorly. Like, they may not die right away, but the screaming is going to be intense.
Dead-eye dicking from 40 yards with a 37 Mike flare.
What's the other one? The one that shoots the soda cans.
Oh yeah, the
can cannon.
Yeah, the can cannon. It's from who does it?
Oh, I don't remember.
There's a couple different companies.
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
Yeah.
But and any shotgun with a revolving cylinder. So if you have a regular like 870 and you slap one of those, the competition revolving,
the X
cylinders on
X product or X whatever it's
called,
X something.
The thing you see guys run around with the gamer gear shit at 3-gun, that automatically makes it an assault weapon now.
I mean, over 5 rounds, so the Kel-Tec is out the window.
Yeah, Kel-Tec, right? Every Kel-Tec is out the window. Even the short, the 7 is still out the window.
A couple of lever gun shotguns would be out the window too, right? On this.
No, it's a semi-automatic. It has to be semi-auto.
It has to be semi-auto.
These all specify semi-auto. So lever actions are pretty universally okay. Revolvers are all okay. So realistically, even though cowboy action shooters can pump, 1,200 rounds a minute if they're real fast, doesn't matter. Good. That's not an assault weapon, apparently.
Jerry Michalik is the only assault weapon I hear.
He is an assault weapon. Like, the man himself is an assault weapon.
You're muted, Chris.
But,
he will have to get his finger surgically removed. His rate of fire is too high. We have to surgically remove his index finger.
Yeah.
But see, it gets even better because you can't even try and maneuver around it. Why? Because it says, and all of the following rifles, copies, duplicates, variants, or altered facsimiles with the capability of any such weapon thereof. 1. All AK types, including the following.
There's
AK-47,
9
AK-47F.
9 pages of named firearms in this bill that would be banned.
Yeah, so all of the AKs, Izmash Segas, Mahdi's, Narinkos, they're named.
Yeah.
All
AK types, period.
SKSs with a detachable ammunition feeding device.
All AR types.
All AR types, including AR-10s, AR-15s, and then it lists a ton.
I wonder if that would include the AR-7.
Well, that's an interesting question considering the AR.
No, because that's 22.
But it says all AR types,
and it has a detachable box magazine.
Yep.
So, and it's got a stock.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Barrett M107A1, the Barrett M82A1.
Yeah, isn't there AR type? Like, Can somebody explain to me in what way an M107 or an M82 are in any conceivable way similar to an AR?
They also list HKs under AR types.
They have a Beretta CX4 as an AR type.
What?
High point carbines
as an AR type?
Yeah.
Setme Sporters are an AR type, according to them. Daewoo K1s are an AR type.
They list 14 different Thompson rifles.
Yeah, the high point the IWI Tavor and Galil Ace are listed as AR
Yeah,
types.
and then all the following
Those-
pistols,
what?
copies, duplicates, variants, and altered facsimiles, all AK type pistols, all AR type pistols.
Dude, the Steyr AUG is listed as an AR type. The Keltec Sub 2000 and RFB and SU-16 are listed as AR types. These people have no idea what they're fucking talking about, is my point here.
Yeah.
They never have.
They have
Oh.
Uzis listed under AR types.
All belt-fed semi-automatic firearms. Oh.
Okay, I want to see somebody do it now. I want to see a Mossberg 500 pump action belt fed.
Oh, that's doable.
That's doable.
That should be doable.
Yeah.
And then I want to see
Man.
Jerry Mitchell
So
run it.
let's jump down to a large capacity ammunition feeding device.
You mean
Andrew.
standard capacity ammunition? feeding
Number
device?
41.
Number 41. Let me find.
Yeah,
a
we already
large
talked about
capacity
that.
Ammunition feeding device means a magazine, belt, drum, feed strip, or similar device. I love the feed strip. Yeah, because, that's large capacity. Or similar device, including any such device joined or coupled with another in any manner that has an overall capacity of, or that can be readily restored, changed, or converted to accept more than 15 rounds of ammunition, and does not include an attached tubular device designed to accept and capable of operating only with 22 caliber rimfire ammunition.
Oh, that means that all standard capacity magazines that don't have limiters.
All standard capacity. All.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is
Yeah,
funny because
including
your
all
Glock-
they
one
have-
of
Your Glock 17 would have to be limited to 15 rounds.
even less than standard capacity mags are banned. Because remember that a 20 round magazine is common in some guns, but is less than standard capacity, which is 30
Such
for
as
an AR.
the AR-10. Yeah.
So
20 or
That
25
is
actually-
if you have the SR Knight.
yeah, so that's actually a less than standard capacity magazine, and it's banned. If I have what it would be a 30 round 5.56 magazine, but all I have is 458 SOCOM ARs,
What's that?
that's
10,
technically a
10 rounds?
seven round
Seven.
mag. That's a 7-round magazine plus one of the pipes. 8.
That would be no, that would
But-
still be illegal because of the rifle itself.
Yep. Because
Yep.
it'll still be outlawed even in California it's still banned because you could put 5.56 in it.
boring sandwich is a little late to the party.
Yeah. Well, we're already past that, bro.
Oh yeah.
We covered all of that already, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's been but at the end of this, go back, watch the beginning.
Yeah. No more Gecko switches.
That they know of.
Any
The 3D,
AR
3D
forend,
printer go brrr.
any
Followed by
AR
Glock
forend is
over.
counted as a barrel shroud.
Did you read the definition of barrel shroud?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is barrel shroud means a shroud that is attached to or partially or completely encircles the barrel of a firearm so that the shroud protects the user of the firearm from heat generated by the barrel
Okay.
and does not include a slide that partially completely encloses the barrel or an extension of the stock along the bottom of the barrel which does not encircle or substantially encircle the barrel. Which means that if you are carrying, I don't know, say an SMLE from World War II, that counts as a barrel shroud, that wood stock around it, which means it's now considered an assault weapon.
Yeah, the AK would.
So what you're saying is I'll take a
That's-
or just cut
that's
the
a-
top of this off, and hey, look, it's no longer a barrel shroud.
Let's see.
You'll see that if you go back and you look at
That would be banned because it partially circles.
the
bans-
the
Attaches to or partially or completely encircles. So even cutting it in half wouldn't help.
the
Well, I guess
entire
one-handed operation it is.
Well,
you
you can't do that because stabilizing braces are banned.
That's
Yeah.
not a pistol.
It's interesting is the term forward grip means a grip located forward of the trigger that functions as a pistol grip, which means if you bullpup your pistol, if you just bullpup your pistol and you have a rearward grip and a forward grip where the trigger is, at that point, it doesn't have a forward grip anymore. Because everything's behind the trigger now.
The Steyr AUG has a second embedded forward grip.
Yeah.
Technically.
I mean, well, where the trigger is forward of one of the grips. However, where the trigger operates is rearward. One-handed operation makes God cry.
That's why he made him so long, Dave.
I mean, this whole thing is. Oh, and by the way, the term pistol grip it specifies number 49. The term pistol grip means a grip, a thumbhole stock or Thorsen type grip or stock or any other characteristic that can function as a grip.
Mm-hmm.
So your thumbhole stock rifles, that counts as a pistol grip under this bill.
Yep.
Threaded barrel means that with the way the threaded barrel is, if you have any kind of M9 that has a threaded barrel, that's now an assault weapon. If you have a
such as a firearm suppressor or flash or silencer or flash suppressor, so that would mean literally all AR barrels, wouldn't it?
All AR barrels, and it would also include a lot of like your Ruger bolt action rifles, the Ruger Americans that come in the larger calibers.
Yeah,
they all are threaded for either a can or a compensator.
Yep.
I saw one the other day that chambered in 458 SOCOM, a bolt gun in 458 SOCOM. Dude had a break on it from hell.
They actually make and sell in the UK an AR that's bolt action, so that you get otherwise the manual of arms of an AR. But
there's one in the US that's the pump action.
Oh yeah, there's pump action, but you're not allowed to do it's technically called slide action, but tomato tomato. You're not allowed to use a slide action gun in the UK though if it's got a detachable magazine, but if it's bolt,
that's true.
You are. So because it's bolt, it's now allowed. In the UK, this bill, because it has multiple other characteristics, would ban a bolt action AR that is legal for anyone to purchase with a background check in the United Kingdom.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get on to section 3. We don't need to talk about what a belt ammunition feeding device is and all that other stuff, right?
No, I don't think we do. But basically, so this section says that you can't import, sell, manufacture, transfer, or possess in or affecting interstate or foreign commerce a large capacity ammunition feeding device.
Yeah. So there is a grandfather clause. I will put that out there. There is a grandfather clause. So if you have them now, they would not be affected. But you could not sell, trade, or give away.
Or
at the time of your death, your next of kin could not take possession.
Yes.
And you also, based on that wording, you may not even be able to transport them across state lines anymore.
Yes.
So if you move to a different state, got to leave them behind. And you can't give them to anybody, which means you have to turn them into law enforcement.
Bolt action Glock, straight to jail. Not because of HR 1808, but because you should know better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Straight to jail. Believe it or not, jail. It says the next one down says paragraph 1 shall not apply to the possession of any large capacity ammunition feeding device otherwise lawfully possessed on or before the date of the enactment of the assault weapons ban of 2022. Well,
and this is why every time I go to VGS, I pick up a Buck Fiden magazine.
See, but here's the thing, right? 30 round magazines, standard capacity magazines, can be 3D printed.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes, easily.
Springs make Followers can be 3D printed.
Yep.
Everything can just be made at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not a regulated part.
Yep. And they could be made and they don't have manufacturing dates.
Right.
So
Which
they can't be
means,
proved
how do
when it
you
was
know? Yeah, how would they ever know how many of those you had before? There's no way for them to know.
Hello, fellow law-abiding citizen. How are you?
Uh-huh.
The thing is that with the way this reads, at that point, there is no reason to not simply go out, get a nice little flat piece of metal, cut a little square in it, cut a nice little square here, a little slot there, and just drop that fucker into an AR. There's no reason not to.
No, because it's the same penalty just for having an AR. So
10 years,
where's
I think, right?
Yeah, 10 years, $250,000 in fines. So where's the incentive to not to? Yeah, Dave, Brett, future.
You have to excuse him, Dave. Brett is an angel. He has never committed any law or never broke any laws that I'm aware of. And I think he's still a virgin. So he's
poor bastard.
it's just Brett and his cat. That's all he cares about.
Well, at least he's petting pussy.
Do we all know?
He's pretty hooked by it too.
Do we know who kills the most Americans with firearms every year?
Police.
Oh, is it maybe police? Interesting, because this law shall not apply to the importation for, manufacture for, sale, blah, 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 transfer or possession by the United States or a department or agency of the United States, or a state or department, agency, or political subdivision of a state, or a sale or transfer to or possession by a qualified LEO employed by the U.S. or a department or agency of the U.S., or a state or a department, blah, 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 or political subdivision for purposes of law enforcement, whether on or off duty, or a sale or transfer to or possession by a campus law enforcement officer for purposes of law enforcement, whether on or off duty.
Yep.
It also exempts anyone who works for the Atomic Energy Department.
What? Where is that in here? I gotta see this.
The very next one. The importation for or sale or transfer to a licensee under Title I of the Atomic Energy Act of 1954 for the purpose of establishing and maintaining an on-site physical protection system and security organization required by federal law, or possession by an employee or contractor of such licensee on-site for such purposes, or off-site for purposes of licensee authorized training or transportation of nuclear materials. So if you drive nuclear shit around, apparently you still get exempted. The possession by an individual who is retired in good standing. See, this is another one. Retired in good standing from service with a law enforcement agency and is not otherwise prohibited from receiving ammunition of a large capacity ammunition feeding device.
Yet another reason we should have bought that small town in the middle of nowhere and named ourselves sheriffs.
Yeah, because what this means is that even once you retire, you still are exempt from this law.
Yep. But retired military aren't exempt.
Right, only retired law enforcement.
Which is quite interesting.
Yep.
No. What? There is nothing good in this law at all. Other than it's an absolute fucking clusterfuck.
And there's a secured storage requirement for grandfathered in guns.
Yes.
Yep. Which means that they get to arrest you simply because you have grandfathered in guns that aren't locked up properly. It also forbids manufacturing weapons that don't have serial numbers.
Would that mean like?
It also adds serial numbers to magazines.
Yep, I saw that. And actually, It doesn't necessarily add serial numbers. It adds build dates. They in the molding on the magazine, they have to have the build date.
Oh no,
Should be
it adds a
identified-
serial
no,
number.
No, it's
Serial
always
number.
been identified. Should be identified by a serial number and the date on which the device was manufactured or made, legibly and conspicuously engraved or cast on the device, such as other identification, as the Attorney General shall by regulations prescribe.
Yep, it adds serial numbers to mags.
Well, it's no different than when they added serial numbers to suppressors.
Yeah, well, that
It's
happens
an
pretty-
accessory.
so. Yeah. Oh yeah. It also mentions all of the center fire autoloaders that it will ban, which include M1 carbines, by the way, Fuds.
Yep.
And M1
carbine.
Garants.
Yeah, M1 carbine with standard fixed stock, M1 Garand with fixed 8-round capacity and standard stock. Marlin Model 9, Marlin Remington Model 74s.
Ruger Mini
Remington's
30s, Ruger Mini 14s.
Without folding or telescoping stocker pistol grip.
Yep.
So there's your hunting rifles.
SPS type rifles with fixed 10-round magazine and standard fixed stock.
Yep. So while earlier in the bill it says those are okay, here it says they are specifically banned.
Let's see. Chippewa 1886 lever action rifles.
Wait
To
a
put in
second.
perspective how long this list
Oh,
is.
this is the exempted list. Sorry, this is the exempted list.
Yeah,
So
fire
the-
exempted.
So
Yeah.
M1 carbines are exempted. M1 Garands are exempted. SKSs with 10 rounds and standard stock are exempted.
Yeah, it's all old shit.
Yep. They specifically label.
Navy Arms 1886 Yellow Boy rifle. What? 1022. The law does not apply to a 22, except for the magazine capacity.
Yeah. So still.
Yeah.
I mean, these are.
Yeah, it's not it's not a violation of the Second Amendment. Look at the firearms you can still have.
Yeah, look at all these guns that are a small enough number that we can, in fact, list them all by name.
Yeah. Savage 110 bolt action rifle. It's not a
Oh,
violation of
boy.
the Second Amendment, so you can still have that one. Thompson Centers. There you go.
I do
Center
find
fire,
it. I did
a
find
whole
it
bunch
funny.
of Frankies.
center fire single shot rifles.
The Shytac M200 and the Shytac M70 Sporter are not banned.
Yeah.
But the but the Barretts are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, back to your question, boring sandwich. What about the 1022? On the exempt list is the Remington 1022 autoloading carbine without folding stock, the Ruger 1022 compact, Ruger 1022 Sportster, and the Ruger 1022 Target. Also, the Survival Arms AR7. So if you have
The
those,
AR7
you're
is exempt.
yeah.
I like what Dave says there at the bottom. 22 long rifle with a pistol grip, assault rifle. 30-06 M1 Garand, absolutely safe.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, if you go out and you buy an M1, well, that's okay. But if you buy an M1A, that's banned. I just... Anyone who's unfamiliar, an M1A, right, is essentially a semi-auto M14, which was the M14 was the M1 Garand with a removable box magazine and full auto. Well, they take out the full auto, leave the removable box magazine. That's the M1A plus, and also the M1A and M1A SOCOMs have threaded barrels. So they have threaded barrels and a removable box magazine. At that point, they're now an assault weapon, and you can no longer have it, even though internally there is no effective difference between an M1 Garand and an M1A except for the box mag.
You really can't make this up. It's so petty specific that it's hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious.
Well, and what I was saying about what Booker said too is that Booker and these other Dems that are proponents of this law have demonstrated repeatedly throughout this hearing in the House of Representatives over whether or not to pass this bill, and of course, ultimately they did, and sent it on to the Senate. This, which they did during the softball game for
during
the reps, so that
congressional softball game.
Yes, so that they could quietly sneak it through and hope that no one would notice and that no one could react to it. These guys demonstrated throughout the hearings that they don't know anything about guns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
anything.
Well, they don't want to know anything about guns because they don't need to know anything about guns.
They're surrounded by other people who know things about guns.
Well, that's their argument is, well, I don't need to know about guns. Right, but you're legislating about guns. Like, this is why government can't be trusted with anything, is because their opinion is, I don't need to know shit about fuck, but I get to regulate it all.
Jack, is it Angry Soap or is it just soap?
It's Paper Street Soap Company. Look it up.
I was just gonna say, were you climbing over a fence to a
were you selling fat socialites their fat back to them? No. With enough soap, one could blow up the world, allegedly.
I mean,
in Minecraft. We can't talk about that on there.
But remember,
that would not be covered by Brandenburg if we had that conversation.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that one. But here's the thing, though, is that like this again, they've tried this before with an assault weapons ban, right? In '94 with Clinton, he signed it into law, an assault weapons ban.
Yep,
and it didn't work. It didn't do anything. At all. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. As a federal government study.
Is that your hint to the segue?
Yes. I'm giving you a segue. I'm handing it to you right now on a silver platter.
So I should go somewhere else then and not talk about that.
No. Most
professional podcast on the internet.
So there is an article from FEE, the Federal Economic or Foundation for Economic Education. The federal government's own study concluded its ban on assault weapons didn't reduce gun violence.
I am shocked. So, absolutely shocked.
Which we will cover in a second after I bring up this article. CNN Journal, who reported fiery but mostly peaceful protests, got an Emmy nomination.
What?
Yes, the CNN journalist, best known for reporting from the burning scene of a fiery but mostly peaceful protest following the Jacob Blake reaction in Kenosha, Wisconsin, has been nominated for an Emmy Award in the Outstanding Emerging Journalist category.
An Emmy Award is correct.
Outstanding journalism as the city burns behind you. Well, it's
outstanding emerging journalist.
The thing is I appreciate how he described it, because I also found the bombing of Hamburg and
mostly fiery, mostly peaceful.
Yeah. It was mostly peaceful.
The firebombing of Tokyo, absolutely. It was fiery, but mostly peaceful.
The atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
It was a dry heat. That was a very dry heat in Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Fiery, but mostly peaceful. They only dropped one bomb.
I hate to go off on a mild tangent here, but I keep seeing the meme again where it says Japan reaches record temperature, and it shows like whatever the temperature is for the day. And down below it shows a nuclear device and it says doubt.
No. Farms. What's up, homie?
But that's the thing though, is like when he said, "Oh, it's fiery but mostly peaceful," the atomic bombs were fiery but mostly peaceful. They only dropped one bomb, to be fair. Just one.
Two. They dropped two.
Well, I mean, they dropped one on each city, but I mean, each city only had one bomb dropped on it. So
very fiery and incredibly peaceful afterwards.
It was very peaceful. It's after the nuclear firestorm died down, it was mostly peaceful.
It was extremely peaceful afterwards.
Maybe a few poltergeists, but
mostly, it was mostly peaceful beforehand. Also, let's to be fair.
Yeah, peaceful, fire, peaceful. See, so it's mostly peaceful.
Right.
Yep. Andrew,
it was only fiery for one day.
Andrew gets an Emmy for that one.
Yeah, I should. Oh man, I deserve a fucking Pulitzer for that. Apparently.
So the federal government's own study concluded its ban on assault weapons didn't reduce gun violence. So let's see, mostly peaceful demonic possession. What the fuck, Brent?
Mostly peaceful demonic possession.
Oh,
I mean, they just say mean things. They don't do a lot. See, so it's mostly peaceful.
Yeah, do something.
I will drag you down to the depths.
Your mother's darn socks that smell.
Don't threaten me with a good time. Do something. This is a response, and perhaps a natural one, to a human tragedy or crisis. We saw this response in the wake of 9/11. We saw it during the COVID-19 pandemic, and we're seeing it again following 3 mass shootings in Buffalo, New York, Uvalde, Texas, and Tulsa, Oklahoma, that claimed the lives of more than 30 innocent people, including small children. So did the vax, but we're not gonna talk about that. In this case,
I guarantee you, the jab has taken more innocent lives than mass shooters have.
Medical malpractice kills 250,000 people a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, in this case, the quote something is gun control in Canada, where no attack even occurred. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced the introduction of legislation that would freeze handgun ownership across the country. Quote, what this means is that we will no longer be possible to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns anywhere in Canada, Trudeau said during a press conference. In the United States, the rhetoric has tended to be more heated, but also vague, though some specific proposals have emerged. Over the weekend, Vice President Kamala Harris called for an all-out ban on assault weapons. When was this article published?
The beginning of June.
June 6th. So this article. This is almost 2 months old. Quote: we know what works on this. We know what works on this. It includes let's have an assault weapons ban, Harris told reporters in Buffalo after attending the funeral of a victim.
You know, she's from California. She already,
which, as we all know.
But she's an elitist California.
Well, remember that, California has no gun violence whatsoever.
She's only an elitist Californian because she's probably halfway decent on her knees.
Ooh, Chameleon Harris, Dave suggests. I like that idea. Chameleon. It needs to be on its knees, though.
Like, it has to be on its knees.
A chameleon on its knees. Chameleon Harris.
Yes. The 1994 assault weapons ban, a brief history. There are numerous problems with the proposal, starting with the sticky question is defining what as an assault weapon is. There's actually no definition of an assault weapon.
Yeah, the assault weapon is a completely, well, they're all made up terms, but it's a
manufactured. Yeah.
It's not only a manufactured term, but it's a manufactured term that has no specific definition. It intentionally doesn't. It's as vague and amorphous as possible.
Brett, I have an answer to that because the VA.
You got to read the question because nobody can.
VA in Atlanta is currently under investigation for wrongful deaths and neglectful treatment. How come we aren't banning the VA? If it saves just one life, they didn't ban the VA in Toma, Wisconsin, tiny town.
The VA in Toma,
which was giving out opiates to everybody in massive quantities.
They didn't
and
ban
also
them
giving out AIDS.
They didn't ban them when 50 years ago. This month is the Tuskegee experiment, where they injected them with fucking syphilis.
Right, because they wanted to see how syphilis would spread through a culture, and so they they offered free medical exams and inoculations to black residents, and injected them all with syphilis.
Yes.
So
all right, just continue on the article. Go along with the article on this one. Assault rifles, which by definition are capable of select fire, are already banned under the National Firearms Act of 1934, which is unconstitutional. The vague phrase assault weapon is basically a tautology. By definition, any weapon can be an assault. Any weapon can be used to assault someone and be virtually useless. The term might be more effectively political, but as economist Thomas Sowell has pointed out, the guns politicians choose to define as assault weapon typically, quote, are no more dangerous than others that are not specified. Which, duh.
Well, yeah, again, weapons that are in common use in the United States are being defined as assault weapons, and they're trying to ban them.
Yes. Let's see. Just continue with the article. We know this, meaning that they're no more dangerous. We know this because the U.S. had a ban on assault weapons as recently as 2004, something gun control supporters recently pointed out on Twitter. This is Dr. Joanne Freeman. Quote, we had an assault weapons ban for 10 years, 1994 to 2004. The world didn't end. People kept their other guns. They bought new guns. It was hardly an attack on gun ownership. The Public Safety and Recreational Firearms Use Protection Act of 1994 targeted firearms deemed...
Oh, she's
quote,
one of those pretentious pieces of shit, because Joanne Freeman is a fucking... She has a PhD in History and American Studies.
Yeah, that's like...
Dr. Jill Biden?
Jill Biden. You see the thing with Whoopi Goldberg on The View? Whoopi Goldberg said that they should make Jill Biden the head of health, Secretary of Health, because then Biden will listen to her. And then she got called out for saying that because Jill Biden's doctorate is in education, and got ridiculed so bad that she eventually deleted the tweet.
I love when the idiots on Twitter that run their mouths wind up getting banned, or not getting banned, but wind up like having to delete tweets because they're so like their tweets are shown to be so completely stupid. Like that chick that tweeted out the thing about when did Rand Paul become a doctor, and when he was criticizing the stuff about COVID, and he replied and was like, actually in like 1980 whatever, like it's I'm still practicing, would you like a visit? And she like got so ridiculed that she deleted her entire Twitter.
Yes. Well, I mean, it was deserved. I mean,
yes. The Public Safety and Recreational Firearms Use Protection Act of 1994 targeted firearms deemed, quote, useful in military and criminal applications, but unnecessary in shooting sports or self-defense.
Unnecessary. Because, government is capable of defining what's necessary.
It targeted firearms, quote, it targeted firearms, quote, useful in military and criminal applications, but unnecessary in shooting sports or self-defense. So you can have a firearm that was useful in the military, but not good at self-defense.
Well, no, you couldn't have one that. I mean, you couldn't have, but they were claiming that those existed.
Yes.
Tomorrow is the anniversary of this. August 1st, 1966. After stabbing his mother and his wife to death the previous night, some crazy asshole, a Marine veteran, took rifles and other weapons to the observation deck of the main building tower at the University of Texas and opened fire indiscriminately on people on the surrounding campus and streets. Over the next 96 minutes, he shot and killed 14 people, including an unborn child, and injured 31 others. The incident ended when 2 policemen and a civilian reached Whitman and shot him dead. At the same time, the attack was the deadliest mass shooting by a lone gunman in U.S. history, being surpassed 18 years later by the San Ysidro McDonald's
San
massacre.
Ysidro.
San
Yep.
Ysidro? But it was committed by a bolt action.
So also
Remington 700.
Well,
since you brought up tomorrow is August 1st.
Mhm.
It is also the anniversary of the Battle of Athens, Tennessee.
Which
was
we've
a
done a video on.
story.
Which we did. Yep. We recorded last year with that was for the 75th anniversary. We recorded with Magnus and Oldman and Trashman. Yep. That was a fun one.
Yep, that's a very informative one if you want to go back and watch that one. Also, since you mentioned San Ysidro, that one was committed with a pump action shotgun.
Yep.
And there was a little girl whose father and mother were both killed in that shooting, who's currently a state senator in Texas, who helped to pass concealed carry in Texas, specifically to prevent those incidents from happening again. That's her work.
Her what's her name? I can't remember her name, but
I can't remember her name.
Her testimony before Congress is absolutely fucking legendary. It's absolutely legendary.
Wasn't it Greta?
I don't remember.
No.
Something like that.
I do remember an interview with her though, where she talks about it.
Susan something.
Susan Hupp.
Susanna Hupp. Yeah, Susanna Hupp. No, look that one up.
Both of her parents were killed in a mass shooting, and her response, because she's not a moron, was, "Hey, if Texas had allowed my parents to be harmed, this wouldn't have happened."
Her response was anger because legally her parents were barred from possessing firearms that would have stopped that shooting.
Yep. Well, yeah. I mean, as everybody says, and I know it sounds like a stupid cliche to a lot of people, but the only time a mass shooting stops is either A, when the shooter runs out of ammunition, or B, when somebody else with a fucking firearm shows up to stop it. Looking at you, Uvalde.
Yeah, don't forget Deadeye Dickin, right? 15 seconds, and it was over. Compare that with Uvalde. 400 cops,
minutes. 400
cops.
Or Stoneman.
Yeah, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. Yeah,
Newtown.
Yeah, where the cops just sit outside.
Buffalo.
Sit around with their thumbs up their asses, and then, maybe we should do something now.
Yep. Colorado, the movie theater.
Yep.
Okay. Targeted firearms deemed useful in military and criminal application, but unnecessary in shooting sports or self-defense. Freeman is right that the ban lasted a decade before expiring on September 13th, 2004. She's also right that the world, quote, didn't end, and Americans continued to use and purchase other types of firearms. What Freeman didn't bring up was the effectiveness or lack thereof of the government's federal assault weapons ban. Nearly 2 decades ago, the Department of Justice funded a study to analyze this very topic and concluded that the assault weapon prohibition had mixed results.
You fucking think?
Researchers noted there was a decline in crimes committed with firearms, classified as assault weapons, but noted, quote, the decline in AW, that is assault weapon use, was offset throughout at least the late 1990s by a steady or rising use of other guns.
Gosh, are you suggesting that people will still find ways to kill each other?
Look at what just happened in fucking Japan. The dude made his own black powder firearm that was set off by a fucking taser.
Yep.
Which is kind of impressive.
It was. Did you guys see the AK guy's video where they recreated it?
Yeah. And it blew up?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
quite catastrophically, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing though, is in China there have been mass stabbings. In Japan, mass stabbings.
There was just a mass bow attack in England.
Yeah.
Where a guy shot 13 people with a bow.
Yep. Crossbow. Yeah. Machete attacks acid attacks, van attacks. Don't forget the assault vans of England.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
don't even consider England. Look at New York, or the city of New York.
There was one in Wisconsin, wasn't there?
Yeah, the dude drove through the Christmas parade.
Yeah, that was a Ford Explorer, and that one dropped off of the news real fast when it came out that he was a leftist.
Yeah,
a black leftist,
psycho leftist,
a black leftist.
Yeah, and he was hardcore left. And as soon as that came out, they went, "Oh shit, it doesn't follow our narrative. Let's all pretend that didn't happen."
Yep. You notice how quickly they stopped talking about in the Indiana mall shooting too?
Yep, because it didn't follow the narrative. In fact, there were people on social media and on the news complaining about the mall shooting in Indiana and the fact that a good guy with a gun had ended it because, well, this is only going to embolden those pro-gun nuts. They complained that someone saved everyone's lives because it didn't work for their narrative.
Yep. And they were saying
at first
it out loud, clearly.
He wasn't supposed to have a gun in there. He broke the law. Well, no.
Well, then they realized that
Except
the law
he didn't break the law
because he was never asked to leave.
It's a policy, not a law.
Yep.
But anyway,
doesn't have to force a law unless he's actively asked to leave by a representative of the organization.
Yeah. So the decline in assault weapons use was offset through at least the late 1990s by a steady or rising use of other guns. So that means less. So in other words, there was a decline in crimes committed with firearms that were banned, but the drop was replaced by crimes committed with other types of firearms that were not banned, such as pistols and shotguns.
Mm-hmm.
You mean like what causes almost every shooting in Chicago?
Tell me, so the ban was passed.
19 people shot on Friday night in Chicago.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a lot.
I check Chicago shooting statistics every night before I go to bed.
And don't forget that the ban was passed in 1994. In 1997 in North Hollywood, what kind of guns did they use? Fully automatic AK-47s.
Yep. So, while gun violence overall fell in the U.S. during this period, just like many other countries around the world, the decline continued even after the federal assault weapons ban ended in 2004.
I thought this trend was going to happen anyway.
Authors of the government study plainly stated, quote, "We cannot clearly credit the ban with any of the nation's recent drop in gun violence. And any future reduction in gun violence as a result of the ban was likely, quote, to be small at best and perhaps too small for reliable measurement."
I think that bears repeating. Any future reduction in violence as a result of a ban was likely to be small at best and perhaps too small for a reliable measurement.
Yeah, we quote, we cannot clearly credit the ban with any of the nation's recent drops in gun violence.
An actual scientific study, so not more
government funded
scientific study. Yeah, government funded, and it still said we don't think this did actually do anything.
One might contend that this is just one study. No study is irrefutable, after all, even ones commissioned by the Justice Department. However, other studies since then have yielded similar conclusions. A RAND review of gun control studies, which was updated in 2020, concluded there's, quote, inconclusive evidence for the effect of assault weapons bans on mass shootings. That was recently published in Criminology and Public Policy the same year. Concluded that bans on assault weapons, quote, do not seem to be associated with the incidence of fatal mass shooting.
So two separate studies in 2020 both said there is absolutely no conclusive evidence that assault weapons bans stop mass shootings. None. Zero. There is no evidence of that.
President Biden has claimed the 1994 crime bill he helped pass, quote, brought down these mass killings, but fact checkers have contested these claims based on the evidence and much more.
And not just fact checkers. We're talking about Snopes, PolitiFact. We're talking about
USA
already
Today.
blatantly left-leaning organizations that have had to call Biden out on deliberately misleading statements, not just about the assault weapons ban, but his whole, well, when the Second Amendment was passed, you couldn't own a cannon. They've also had to call him out on that because it's such a blatant falsehood. Yeah.
Hell, you can manufacture your own cannon.
You can own a Gatling gun if it was manufactured before 1899. You can own a Gatling gun,
which existed because they were used in Civil War.
Yeah. Well, they were developed. The irony is that the Gatling gun was developed because Gatling thought it would end wars because it would be too terrible. He was kind of wrong.
Making a killing more effective is never going to deter war.
World War I determined that was a lie.
Hashtag mustard gas.
Dude, the Maxim machine gun.
Yeah.
It looks like your son's in the house, Jason.
Yep. What's up, bub? He's got an ear infection. He's not happy.
Those fucking suck.
He got it from his mom. His mom gets him all the time.
I used to get ear infections so bad that like most of my childhood Christmases are me laying with like a warm washcloth on my ear, staring at the wall.
Hot water bottle.
Yeah, like that's how I spent my Christmases, like my entire childhood.
And Dave, just so you know, I would love to make like a dozen bowling ball cannons. And on the day that they finally show up, like, fine, we'll do it your way. Roll them out the window.
Let's see. Dave says we shot it. Dave, that's Dave of PopInsPatches.com. He says we shot a cannon on the 4th. A gun store south of ours sells 9mm Gatling guns.
Yes, those are made by Tippmann, and yes, that is the same Tippmann who makes paintball guns. Yes. Those are made by Tippmann, and they take Glock mags.
Yeah. Yep. And Brett says, and Andrew isn't it? Let's see. And Andrew
just mentioned World
War One. I gotta finish my beer.
Is that the drinking game? Is the drinking game every time I make historical references that there are different drinks to say? I gotta get in on this, man. I just say it and just keep drinking. Speaking of cannons,
we need a Professor Andrew drinking game.
I have my what
there was a way.
There's a Poppins patch on your hat.
I wish you could find a way to point the cannon at the red coat.
The ATF red coat.
I really tried to figure out how to position it, but the what ho retard one is so big that it's really hard to position correctly.
That's why I can't wear my armed abolitionist patch, because it's a big 4x3.
Yeah, I mean this is
stick this on hat then.
This is a stick this on hat. Yeah, and I
was telling Jason he needs to get one.
Yeah, this entire front panel is Velcro here, but the problem is this thing is gigantic. So like it's really hard to position, but I put them both on there specifically for the the red coat, and it's what ho retard, I say, bang.
Yeah, speaking of 4th of July, my son's in the comments and he said did I tell you what happened near their house on the 4th? The house across the street, they were doing sparklers, and their the bucket fell over.
Oh no.
And it burnt their house, the house next door, and half of the house after that. And then it was also wind blowing, and it burned the tack shed at my son's house and lit something out back on fire.
Morons.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, literally within inches of losing the house.
That is directly on the opposite end of the spectrum of coolness of sparklers to what Forest Mommy did for the for the sparkler.
That was very unsanitary.
It was pretty epic,
but pretty epic, yeah.
It brought a tear to my eye. I was like, God damn, I love this country so much.
Yeah.
By the way, Dave, real quick, just so you know, I just sent you a message on Facebook. It doesn't look like it's been delivered yet, but watch for that.
Dave says 3.5 is about as large as you want to go for wearing on shirts and hats. Bigger than like 5.5 are good for the back of a plate carrier or range bags. Okay, that was an entirely different conversation than I thought I was reading.
Oh yeah, but that's I mean, I agree with him, but that's the nice thing about the stick this on hat is because both
you can put some of the bigger stuff on.
Yep, I can put real big stuff on here. So
yeah, we need to.
I'm a big fan of them.
This
one's actually one of their prototypes.
This is our Patch Whores Anonymous segment. Oh, is it going to be a D pick? Yes.
No, Dave, I wouldn't do that to you.
It's only 3.5 though, so it'll fit.
It's only 3.5 inch.
Yeah.
I didn't take my pills, so yeah, it's only going to be 3.5.
He didn't get down to the gas station.
That's you know when I miss those memes about the gas station boner pills and like 12 rippets and just being all hopped up and like, what?
Well, Andrew, you have intimate, knowledge of what rippets will do to you.
Oh God, dude! You know the craziest thing about rippets though is if you case race with them, depending on the color of rippet that you're drinking, it will determine the type of gastrointestinal distress you will experience. So if you can guess what it's going to be. FYI, orange ones, camel shit. That's what you get. All right, camel shit.
All right. It is unlikely the White House has enough votes to pass the second ban on certain semi-automatic firearms, but it's far from impossible in an environment in which many Americans, even gun enthusiasts, Second Amendment supporters, are increasingly asking politicians to, quote, do something. GovT gives it 17% chance of actually becoming law. It passed the House 217, 213. A couple of Dems voted. Or 217, 213.
Yeah,
a couple of Dems voted against, 2 Republicans went across and voted for, and then there was one Republican that sustained or abstained.
Well, yeah, and one, first of all, that one Republican that abstained would have made it a little bit closer, but 2, you got to remember that the 2 Republicans who crossed the aisle there to do that are ones that have openly said they're for.
And they're like Illinois and New Jersey or something like that.
Yeah, they're already where even red is still blue. They're those areas. Yeah,
they're trash. Unfortunately, when people say do something, they tend to mean pass sweeping legislation that infringes on the civil liberties of others. Such thinking spawned the super state that sprang forth in the war on terror following the 9/11 attacks. It also produced government lockdowns during the epidemic, the worst and longest depression in American history, and a host of other disasters. If history is hot as anything, is that the impulse to use collective forces to, quote, do something in the wake of a tragedy or crisis has created far more problems than it has solved.
Yeah, do something-ism is, what I like to call it. It's the do something-ism. It's I don't care what you do as long as you've done something. And then the people who do something, whether it's actually effective or not, and even if it makes things significantly worse, will go, at least I did something, as if that fucking matters. That's like the equivalent. This is the equivalent of like somebody sinking in quicksand. So you go and somebody goes, somebody do something. And so you drive a truck into the quicksand and crush them with it.
Yeah. And
go, well, at least I did something. But it made it worse.
Yep. Boring Sandwich has a good quote. He says that to even have the balls to negotiate our basic rights is absurd. Tar and feather in Minecraft. There's a guy on TikTok I follow that has a pneumatic guillotine. Just options exist.
Boring Sandwich, I wore this shirt for a reason.
It went through several watermelons.
Oh man, the thing is, if you rigged up, right, like a guillotine to an offset crank, right, on like a little steam engine, you could just wood fire and water your way to a better tomorrow, because it would just automatically go up and you just have a little trip and it raises it and then drops and then raises it and drops and raises it and drops. And you could create like an assembly line. It would be great. Fast, efficient. You could even rig up, I bet you could rig up like a carbide bar
That is a form of do somethingism.
See, and then it could rig up a carbide bar that was just at the right angle, so it was self-sharpening.
There you go.
See, yeah. I got ideas, man. I got ideas.
Yeah. Let's see. Question more for opponents than it solved. The economic historian Robert Higgs has noted that the most sprawling encroachments of freedom in history spawned during crisis and tragedies, and they have given rise to tyrants from Lenin to Mao and beyond. Even when powers are relinquished by government, they are rarely relinquished completely. A phenomenon Higgs described as the ratchet effect.
Yeah, quote, so the ratchet effect is this idea that as you're sliding, right, you have ratchet teeth, and it might not go any further, but it can't slide back because of the ratchet teeth. So it just keeps advancing.
Yes. Quote, when crises occur, government almost certainly will gain new powers over economic and social affairs. For those who cherish individual liberty and a free society, the prospect is deeply disheartening.
There are other ways.
There are other ways.
No. So as we come to the end of this one, Dave has a good question. Jason,
are we going to get into that?
Are we really going to get? I thought we were going to keep it to guns.
No, we'll keep it to guns, but I want to put it up so that way people know when we do talk about it down the road why.
Do we have to do it? Do we have to do a 9/11 episode?
I really don't want to do a 9. I mean, it's been done to death.
At some point, this is a decent question. Hey, I got a question. If you have time
I feel
in the show or down the road, assuming September 11th was just hijackers doing bad things, what would you guys say would have been a proper response instead of the Patriot Act?
Well, I would argue that September 11th was a response to the U.S. government's meddlings in the Middle East.
And that. Well, it's I feel like though if we really covered that would send us into a free fall.
We would be DVE'd so quick.
It would make us free fall, almost like, I don't know, something intentional had happened.
Almost like Tower 7.
For no reason. Like Tower 7.
Not saying anything nefarious happened, but
but motherfucker, there could have been.
I'm just gonna sit over here. I'm just gonna sit over here reading my children's book.
Oh.
So I got one more article, and this is we can just touch on this one, and then let Professor Andrew go off.
I have a book. It's bookmarked.
He brought a book for this. Jesus fuck.
So this
you guys are in for a treat tonight.
This is an article. This is from last year, July 31st, 2021. All right, and this is the very racist history of gun control.
In the Boston Globe, which is interesting.
Yeah, I have the MSN because I'm not gonna fucking paywall.
Right,
this is the MSN article, but it's a reprint of the Boston Globe article. The American Civil Liberties Union caused some double takes last Sunday with a tweet blaming racism and, quote, anti-blackness for the presence of the Second Amendment in the Constitution. It was jarring to see the ACLU, once an indomitable champion of the Bill of Rights, endorse the revisionist view that one of its core components, the right to keep and bear arms, exists for malevolent racial reasons. That view is associated with Emory University historian Carol Anderson, who claims that the motivation behind the Second Amendment was the insistence by Southern whites on having access to the weapons they might need to quell slave revolts. Did the South really exist in 1789?
Yes, it really did.
Yeah. Okay. It's an interpretation other scholars find dubious. Harvard law professor Randall Kennedy, a leading authority on race relations, civil liberties, and U.S. law, wrote recently that Anderson's argument is made, quote, unconvincingly in the face of the formidable scholarship to the contrary. So, in any case, the real racism associated with the Second Amendment isn't the rights of gun ownership that the Bill of Rights cemented into the Constitution's text. It is the long and shameful record of the rights being denied. Quote, for much of American history, gun control measures, like many other laws, were used to oppress African Americans. That's according to Adam Winkler, a constitutional scholar at UCLA. In blatant disregard of the Second Amendment's guarantee, Southern states still enacted laws prohibiting black people, enslaved and free alike, from owning firearms. A Florida statute enacted in 1825 empowered white citizen patrols to, quote, enter into all Negro houses and suspected places to search for weapons and, quote, lawfully seize and take away all such arms, weapons, and ammunition. In 1831, the Maryland legislature passed a law banning free black residents from carrying arms. The Tennessee Constitution, which was formerly guaranteed gun right to, quote, the freemen of the state, was amended in 1834 to restrict those rights only to, quote, the free white men of the state. Andrew's bouncing.
Oh, I got some.
I'm just gonna sit back and let Andrew go.
I got some shit, man.
Go ahead. Go.
Okay, so one of my favorite quotes that's in For the Defense of Themselves and the State, the Original Intent, Judicial Interpretation of the Right to Keep and Bear Arms by Clayton E. Kramer. It's one of his best books. If you haven't read anything by Clayton E. Kramer, you should get some of those books. They can be quite expensive. This one runs about $130 if you can find it, but it's absolutely worth it. He says, if the police were not yet armed and the laws restricting arms were not primarily directed at blacks, what was the purpose of these laws and why did they appear first in the South? The answer may lie in the abolition movement. Quote, the struggle over slavery accentuated the lawlessness and violence. As early as the 1830s, the anti-slavery movement aroused racial passions and provoked vigilante actions in both North and South. In Boston, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, and other cities, mobs attacked both white abolitionists and free black citizens. In the South, vigilantes suppressed all opposition to slavery. The problem of mob violence directed against abolitionists was sufficiently widespread during the 1830s when the concealed weapons laws became increasingly common in the South. The President Martin Van Buren's inaugural address, delivered in March of 1837, addressed the problem twice. In the South, where slaveholders were overwhelmingly in control, laws to protect attacking mobs from the, quote, unfair advantage, end quote, of abolitionists carrying concealed weapons, quote, would not be surprising, end quote. Also, it needs to be mentioned because chapter 6 in this book is called No Negro Shall Be Allowed to Carry Firearms. And that is a quote from Louisiana and Mississippi. So mentions at the end of the Civil War, the newly restored Southern legislatures adopted a series of laws known as the Black Codes. The purpose of these laws was to create restrictions on free blacks that would maintain the dominant position of Southern whites. Many of these restrictions were aimed at reducing the freedmen to a position of economic dependence. Others seemed designed to make them unable to defend themselves. A case can be made that these two situations were connected. An example of this Mississippi Black Code, which required, quote, that no freedman, free Negro, or mulatto not in the military service of the United States government and not licensed so to do by the Board of Police of his or her county shall keep or arm firearms of any kind or ammunition, dirk, or bowie knife. Similarly, St. Landry Parish, Louisiana, passed a series of, quote, police regulations that included, quote, no Negro who is not in the military service shall be allowed to carry firearms or any kind of weapons within the parish without the special written permission of his employers, approved and endorsed by the nearest and most convenient chief of patrol. Alabama's variant did not even include a process by which a freedman, free Negro, or mulatto might obtain a permit.
Yes.
So,
thank you, Professor.
Already,
Andrew.
Yeah, in the 1830s, and right after the Civil War, we already see that it was racist is true, and the pro-gun movement was racist is absolutely an obscene, stupid position to hold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Armed minorities don't get bashed. I mean, all such laws were, of course, erroneous violations of the Second Amendment. In fact, some prominent abolitionists, such as the brilliant Massachusetts lawyer Lysander Spooner, argue that ratification of the Second Amendment has made slavery itself unconstitutional. Quote, the right of a man to keep and bear arms is a right palpably inconsistent with the idea of being a slave, Spooner wrote in 1860. The constitutional right to keep arms, he pointed out, quote, implies the constitutional right to use them if need be for the defense of one's liberty or life. The logic was unassailable, which is why slavery supporters went to such grotesque lengths to evade it. In the Dred Scott v. Stanford, the Supreme Court got around the problem by ruling that black people didn't count as U.S. citizens. If they were, Chief Justice Roger Taney wrote, the Second Amendment, quote, would give the person of the Negro race the right to keep and carry arms wherever they went. To Taney, this was unthinkable. After the Civil War... Yes.
In fact, I just want to mention Maryland, right, which was a slave-owning state that stayed within the Union during the Civil War. Mm-hmm. Not only it said that they had laws that prohibited slaves from carrying guns without a license from said master, it's quote. But not only that, they even prohibited free black men entirely from owning guns, and prohibited free black men from owning dogs out of fear that the dogs would be used as weapons to defend them.
Yeah. After the Civil War, racists continued.
Finish another beer.
Yep. Oh, you're gonna be drunk before the end of this. We only got about 25 minutes.
Hopefully, you ain't got to work tomorrow, man.
Yeah. After the Civil War, racists continued to use gun control as a tool of white supremacy, a common provision in the post-war black codes adopted by Southern states made it illegal for the free men to possess firearms. To enforce these laws, white men assembled posses to intimidate black communities in the South to ensure that they weren't armed. The most notorious of those gun control posses was called itself the Ku Klux Klan.
Hey, you may have heard of them.
Yes. Conversely, defenders of equality throughout the U.S. history, both white and black, have understood the importance of gun rights to civil rights. During the original congressional debate over the 14th Amendment, Michigan Senator Jacob Howard stressed the importance of protecting, quote, the personal rights guaranteed and secured by the first 8 amendments to the Constitution, such as the right to keep and bear arms. The Second Amendment was indispensable to black liberty as the rest of the Bill of Rights. A favorite formulation of Frederick Douglass was that if black people were to really be free, quote, they must have the cartridge box, the jury box, and the ballot box to protect them.
Yep. There's a really good quote from Cassius Marcellus Clay that is it's quoted in Featherstone and Gardner, but anyway, it's quote, both proponents and opponents of slavery were cognizant that an armed black population meant the abolition of slavery, although some blacks were trusted with arms to guard property for self-defense and for hunting. The sociological fact explained not only the legal disarming of blacks, but also the advocacy of a weapons culture by abolitionists. Having employed the instruments for self-defense against his pro-slavery attackers, abolitionist and Republican Party founder Cassius Marcellus Clay wrote that, quote, the pistol and the Bowie knife, end quote, are to us as sacred as the gown and pulpit. So again, you see in the antebellum South, it's the abolitionists that are pro-gun. It's the free blacks and the slaves that are pro-gun. It is not the slave owners that are proponents of free ownership of firearms. They want exactly the opposite. Mm-hmm. They want control of firearms.
Because
and that history goes,
as the story goes, gun control is not about the guns, it's about the control.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
To the framers of the post-Civil War amendments, it was self-evident that the right of freed slaves to have guns for self-defense was essential to their full-fledged citizenship. Between 1775 and 1866, Yale law professor Akil Reed Amar wrote in his acclaimed book on the Bill of Rights, quote, the poster boy of arms morphed from the conquered militiamen to the Carolina freedmen. When Reconstruction died, it didn't really die. When Reconstruction died and the long dark night of Jim Crow began, the right to keep and bear arms became even more vital to the preservation of black life and the quest for civil rights.
Well, that was even during Reconstruction, though. In 1866 in Delaware, Senator Salisbury, who was a Delaware Democrat, expressed his opposition to the presence of black soldiers in the post-war regular army. What would be the effect, he asked his fellow senators, if you were to send Negro regiments into the community in which I live to brandish their swords and exhibit their pistols and their guns? When the Civil Rights Act of 1866 was being debated, Salisbury spoke against it on the grounds that if passed, it would invalidate the Delaware law that required, quote, that free Negroes shall not have the possession of firearms or ammunition.
Yep. Oh, I got a good one. Here's another good one. Ida B. Wells, a prominent journalist and civil rights pioneer who helped expose the horrors of Southern lynchings, noted in 1892 that the only time the intended victim of a lynching escaped was, quote, when he had a gun and used it in self-defense. The lesson this teaches is that the Winchester rifle should have a place of honor in every black home, and it should be used for that protection which the law refuses to give.
Amen, sister.
Amen to that.
Yeah. That was being used in Oakland during the 1960s and 70s when the Black Panthers formed and started to protect their own neighborhoods. And then they went on the steps of the Capitol building, and Ronald Reagan had a heart attack, and a figurative heart attack, and started supporting gun control.
Oh, yeah. The South Carolina Democrats in the mid 18 or late 1860s had a proposal which sought to recover control from the freedmen. Included Resolution 3 was that the Democratic military clubs are to be armed with rifles and pistols and such other arms as they may command. Democrats must go in large numbers as they can get together and well armed. And number 16 was never threaten a man individually. If a black man deserves to be threatened, the necessities of the times require that he should die.
Yeah. So gun control is racist, bro.
Going back to the old Ronald Reagan thing, you have to remember that for most of his life, like back when he was president of the Actors Guild and all that shit, he was a registered Democrat. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until he actually ran for governor of California.
Like what's his face? DT 45.
Yeah, it's exactly like 45.
Yep.
No.
He was a Democrat. He was an active member of the Democrat Party right up until he decided to run for governor of California.
Mm-hmm. So, all right, I got 4 more paragraphs. Let me get through them. 7 decades later, Malcolm X was making much the same point and explicitly grounded in the Second Amendment. Quote, with black lives going unprotected by federal and state governments, he said, quote, it is only intelligent and is only right that Negroes protect themselves, and I have encouraged them to buy a rifle and a shotgun, which according to the Constitution is legal. Right, which it is. But even then, gun control laws too often negated what the Second Amendment guaranteed. Martin Luther King Jr. was denied a permit to carry a gun for protection even after his house was firebombed. King's inability to exercise his Second Amendment rights observes the National African American Gun Association in a brief to the Supreme Court, which will hear the Second Amendment case this fall is, quote, that was last fall, quote, is perhaps the most stark illustration of how the failure to uphold the right to keep and bear arms has played a role in the history of the civil rights movement. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when the state will not protect you, when the state cannot protect you,
not only
that, unwilling to.
Will not, cannot, and doesn't have the duty or right to. Don't forget that.
There's only one thing that will, and that is your personal arms.
You are your own first responder.
Your personal arms are the foundation of your freedom and have always been recognized to be so.
And as part of that, let's not forget that the term first responder was never actually used until Jimmy Carter started throwing it around to describe your emergency services people.
Mm-hmm. So,
I mean,
yeah, I don't have any more articles. Andrew, you want to jump on your airplane for a bit?
I mean, I don't really have a whole lot. I really want to promote seriously. Everybody who's pro-gun needs to buy this book and needs to read through it, memorize as much as you can. I cannot say enough good things about Kramer. He's got a bunch of books out. They're very, very good, and they're all about the judicial history and the legal history of the Second Amendment and what it's really about and what the laws really look like. He has a number of chapters about how racist it is. 3/4 of this book talk about how racist gun control is, actually, and how it's been used to prevent natives during the early days of the colonies from being armed. The penalty for giving a native a firearm in just before the Revolution was death.
Mm-hmm.
It was a capital crime to arm natives.
Yeah, gun control. Mm-hmm. Gun control has always been the movement of tyranny, of control.
Right, and up until the Civil War, right, and well, up until the end of Jim Crow, really, largely, mm-hmm. it was openly racist, right? They could openly say, "We don't want you arming, we don't want you arming them Indians. We don't want you arming them Negroes." Right? That's what it was, up until you hit the Civil Rights Movement, and then because now it's not fashionable to openly say that it's about race, they move it to class, right? Because they've had so many laws for so long to keep minorities lower class, to keep minorities with less money and things, that now they can go, well, no. See, it's not about race. We just want a $200 tax.
Yeah.
To make sure that only the right people have these. It's the same thing. You see the same thing in Britain and across imperial Europe and formerly imperial Europe, where the landed gentry can own guns. Knights and lords and dukes and all these people, viscounts and whatever, they can all have guns. But the average common person can't. And that exists to this day. That's a big thing, that they make sure that only the gentry have guns.
And we're not talking just about firearms. We're talking about arms. Period. Weapons.
Arms.
The
Swords.
even in fiction with like Braveheart, right? There's the speech about the English won't let us train with weapons, so we train with rocks.
In Ireland, right, in 1915, 1916, leading up to the Prolachnarian, right?
Yeah.
The
try to pronounce that.
the Irish Declaration of Independence.
Okay, that's easier to say. I can say that one.
Up until that point, the Irish were forbidden from having guns. So in order to train, they used field hockey, like hurling sticks and stuff, right? Because they couldn't train with actual guns in the open. So they would train movement and coordination and things with sticks and then switch to the real guns. They restricted ammunition. When the British realized that the Irish were getting guns, they restricted the sales of ammunition and said that, possessing ammunition was illegal, so that they could try and keep that from being an issue. Gun control has always been about control, and not just control, but control of the people that the controllers fear the most getting power. And as gun control expands, what that should tell you is that they fear more and more people getting power. And at this point, what it is that the thing they fear most is the average citizen actually having the power to fight back.
To say no.
Against them.
To say no. Like if... yeah. I'm going to Brandenburg, Ohio myself. No.
That's why I've been sitting here completely silent, is because I would have done so several times by now.
But that's what they fear the most, right? What they're telling you is that they are utterly terrified at the average citizen of the United States being able to prevent them from doing anything they want to them at will. That's what they're terrified of.
Yep.
Is that.
All right, I don't have anything to add to that. Let's throw some plugs and get out of here.
If you really like to wake up with a little bit of morning mud, why not check out Coffee Brand Coffee? Link in the description, and it's been going across the ticker for the entire episode. If you use that link, you support the channel, you support me, and you get some excellent coffee in the process. Don't forget to check out Dave from Poppin's Patches. He makes some of the greatest patches out there, including what got us with him, the original redacted shark.
Yep. And the one I'm rocking today has is a Dave.
And this is one of my favorites that I have here too, the Working Dead.
Yep, I have the ATF red coat on my hat tonight. Jason's got the Ed and Eddie one. He has a ton of them out there.
Top five favorite patch.
Oh yeah,
they're awesome patches. They're real solid. What I really appreciate is that the white doesn't fade as you wear them, which is something that happens with a lot of them. White and yellow really likes to fade. Doesn't with his. It's real nice. It's high quality stuff. The wood chipper one, all sorts of cool ones from Dave. He's got t-shirts too, including the Bogalorian t-shirt that me and Chris helped design. He's got all sorts of other cool stuff, new stuff coming all the time. So make sure you check that out.
He just dropped a new one last night.
I think that was last night.
I think it was last night.
I think that was last night. Also, make sure that you check out Derica's book. Think for Yourself, Thinking Workbook for Beginners, especially if you homeschool or are planning on homeschooling. Get that, use it with your kids. Super awesome. And it'll help them figure out how to think, not what to think. Also use it if your kids are in public school, because the public school will love to try and convince your kids that they need to think like them rather than think for themselves. Teach them how to think for themselves. Let's see. We are an affiliate of RK Spookware, who creates stuff for if you take PLA and you turn it into freedom dispensers, you need things that are metal for those, and he sells that stuff, and it's awesome. And you should check him out.
On a quick note, there was a gun buyback in Houston, offering $150 for firearms, and some Prenty boys went down there with a whole box of Liberators and the little 2-shot 22s and the little things that take like $2 worth of PLA to make.
Yep.
And flipped them all for $150 each.
Nice. Yep.
Hey, if they're gonna give you money for them, fuck it. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
$2 of PLA versus $150. It's not.
That's pretty good ROI.
But you don't even need the actual metal on them for that. But if you are going to use them, you're going to need metal on the rails. You're going to need metal for a bunch of parts. That's where RK Spookware comes in. Use the link in the description, and you can support us by getting stuff that you were going to get anyway. If you want to care for your beard like a Viking, check out thebeardstruggle.com. Use code InkedAnarchist15 at checkout, and you get 15% off. They have a bunch of new scents, and they have stuff for ladies now. They have a beard straightener. They have all sorts of new scents for ladies. They have colognes and perfumes. They got all sorts of neat stuff. Check them out. It's thebeardstruggle.com. Use code InkedAnarchist15. Get 15% off. I'm sure there's something I'm forgetting. On the ticker here, check us out on Odyssey. Check us out on Rumble. Check us out on Telegram, because we're on Telegram. What else we got? I'm sure there's something I'm forgetting. Oh, that's awesome. The Liberators are such crap, too.
They are.
All right, I'm choking, so
let's get out of here. Yeah. Make sure you share with your friends. Tell your friends about this episode. Share it with them. Go back and check out the Battle of Athens episode as well. Make sure you listen to that one or watch that one. if you prefer to watch, and you get to learn a bunch of really, really cool, really interesting history with that one. It's a lot of
Battle
fun.
of Athens anniversary is tomorrow, but in 3 weeks' time, that is August 21st, is the 30th anniversary of Ruby Ridge, of Samuel Weaver's murder. So we will have a special with that one. We're trying to get Magnus to come back and join us for that if he might have to work. I'm going to put out some feelers to a couple other guys and hopefully get one or two of them on. So 3 weeks time, that'll be a good episode.
Gonna be a good time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So on that note, you guys got anything else?
Nope.
Don't comply unless they absolutely leave you no choice, and then only comply until they look away.
A Boring Sandwich says 62 3D printed firearms will trend in for $150 each. So
holy shit.
Yeah.
That is a thing of beauty, man. That is a thing of beauty.
That's a chunk of coin.
No, $9,300 according to the Mr. Guns and Gear post on it.
Nice.
So on that note,
Yes.
we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.